Hey guys, this is John, author of the Cabin Owner's Manual and realtor with Marty Loveday and Associates. And I have with me today my friend Roger McCarter, who also is a realtor with Marty Loveday.
Absolutely. Hey guys.
Roger is an expert in real estate, as you will find out later on. But today, Roger has a form that we're going over in the series on forms so that people better understand what it is that we're doing whenever we're being our realtor and we speak our realtor speak and nobody but us understands it. We're trying to make it easier for people to understand what it is that we're doing. Roger, what form do you have today that we're going over?
Today we have a confirmation of agency status form.
Okay.
And that form is a document that's prepared by the Tennessee Association of Realtors, and we'll go over how that kind of works for us today.
Well, so what is the purpose of the confirmation of agency status?
Okay, so the confirmation of agency status, it's a required form that lets everyone involved in the transaction know where each party stands in that particular transaction or how they're represented.
Okay. So who signs this form?
Okay, so on this form, the seller's going to sign, the buyer's going to sign, and then each one of their agents will sign as well.
Okay. When does this need to be signed?
Okay, so this is a form that we're going to get signed up front before the offer is submitted, so that this form goes in with your offer. If you are
so if I'm hearing you right, the buyer's agent is usually one that initiates this form. Is that what I'm hearing?
Actually, you will do this on the listing side. So if you're the seller, your agent would also have one of these forms.
Okay.
Generally, this is prepared at the listing agreement
in the
signing.
package.
In that package, in that listing package, this form is in there so that it's already pre-signed, because the moment that you sign the listing agreement between the seller and the agent, then you've constituted that agency agreement. So that tells everybody that you're representing. That's what this form is for. So everyone knows.
So so you said this should be signed when it does come. And let me ask you this: what exactly does this form do?
Okay, so like we said earlier, this form lets each party involved in the transaction know how they are represented or where they kind of stand in this particular transaction. And it is transaction specific to an address or a particular property.
Okay, good deal. So in other words, if I am a buyer and I hire Roger McCarter to be my, I said hire, but I choose Roger McCarter to be my agent.
I think you would.
I would, because you're the best that there is. Don't tell Rod I said that.
He doesn't need to know all this.
That's right. But if I want you to be my agent and I say, I want to make an offer on property A, then you're going to fill this out for property A. If I also... If that offer for some reason does not work and we choose a different offer to offer on a different piece of property, would we fill out another one of these?
Yes, each property would be specific to its own confirmation of agency.
Okay, I thought that's what you were getting at. I just wanted to double check and make sure. Okay, so I know we've talked about this. We know we've gone over the who, the what, the when. Why does this form exist?
This form exists. Well, we're going to say because it helps us to abide by state laws. And by doing that, what we're trying to do is communicate between each other that if you're the seller, you're letting the buyer know, hey, I have a real estate agent and this guy's a professional and he's looking out for my best interest. At the same time, if you're the buyer, you're letting that seller know, hey, I'm represented by Roger over at Marty Loveday and Associates, and he knows what he's doing. So just be aware he's looking out for my best interest as well. So that just lets the buyer and the seller know how each party is involved in the transaction and who their agent is as well.
Well, that's a good point, and this does not necessarily fall under this particular form, but that's something that I think people need to understand. Going to throw in a little jab here for realtors and what we do. I think a lot of times people just think that all we do is fill out paperwork and sell real estate, but that's not true, is it?
It's not. It's really a people game,
and it's taking care of our clients.
It is,
and that's our job, isn't it?
And constant communication.
To be an expert and to communicate is what we do. Is that correct?
That is.
Okay, good deal. All right, now we're going to get back to our regularly scheduled.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Let's get back on track.
Okay, so can you explain to me how this form actually works?
Okay. So this form is going to be presented to you, and just for everyone to sign. And so once we've all signed and checked our appropriate boxes,
Okay.
then this form will be part of all of the documentation that you're going to need. So you would send this in with your offer, letting the seller know, and that just helps everybody stay on the same page.
Okay, so let's assume that I'm a buyer.
Right.
And I come in and I say, Mr. McCarter, I would like for you to make an offer and help me buy the property that's going to be best for my family and our goals in this. We're going to fill out some pieces of paper, but this is going to be one of them. And we're going to sit down, and when we find a piece of property, and I'm going to say, I want to make an offer on property A.
Yeah.
What are you going to have me do? And then which one of these boxes am I going to sign? And how do I know which box to sign?
Okay, so that's a good question. The first thing that we need to do is determine if we are going to, if you're going to have me to be your agent, and we're going to have an agreement in writing that says that. Because if it's in writing and we have an agreement, which is called a buyer representation agreement,
Correct.
that means I would represent you, the buyer, through the transaction or the purchase of any property.
Which, by the way, we have a video on that already. So
Yes,
go
we'll
ahead.
be glad to sell you some.
Yeah.
So so we'll have that buyer's representation agreement that states that you and I have agreed to work together.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm basically you're hiring me and I'm working for you. Kind of is almost how that's going to be set up.
Okay.
And of course that's another form, like you said.
Sure.
We'll go over. So back to your question.
Back to the confirmation of agency status.
Back to the question. So say you did come in and you're the buyer, and you chose me to represent you, and we have that buyer's representation agreement, and we've signed that.
Okay.
Okay. So then we're going to go over this agreement to figure out where we need to be. All right. So first thing, there's a couple of boxes. There's a seller side and a buyer side. On the buyer's side, we can talk about that first, even though it's backwards from
Okay.
where we should be.
Sure.
Let's talk about the buyer's side since we're talking about buyers. So on the buyer's side, which is off to the right of the form, is the first thing is the buyer's name, and that'll just be printed, and then the agent's name or licensee's name, and that'll just be printed there as well.
Okay.
So then there's several boxes here that we can choose, and I'll just kind of go over them real quick, and then we'll explain what they are.
Sure.
The first box is transaction broker or facilitator, which says
That's a lot of words.
they're
What does that
not
mean?
an agent for either party. So yeah, I want to go back and go over that one.
Okay.
Okay. And then the second one would be that the buyer's unrepresented. So nope, they're going to buy this house without an agent.
Okay.
Not the best idea.
Okay.
So that's another option though that you can choose that if you like.
Sure.
Okay. And then there's agent for the buyer, and we'll talk about that. A designated agent for the buyer, and then there's a disclosed dual agent for both parties. So they would have to have consent from both the buyer and seller for you to be a dual agent. And so that's just not our company policy to do that.
Right. That is Marty Loveday and Associates has decided our standard operating procedure is we do not work under a disclosed dual agent. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
It is legal.
Yes.
But
it
it's
is.
something that we have decided that is a little gray area, and we try to stay out of it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, our company chooses not to.
Okay.
Not to do
Which
that
at
way
that
if we do
point,
not.
if we were going to do something similar, we would go back up and do.
Transaction broker, which means we can still help you with the deal,
Okay.
but we're just not going to be a party on both sides. We don't.
We're not going to be an agent.
I can't.
We're
we
going to
can't
be a
be
facilitator.
we can't be an agent for both parties, and I can't represent your best interest while I turn around over here and represent this guy's best interest at the same time. We feel like that's difficult.
So that would be like having a lawsuit where your lawyer is representing both.
Exactly.
Okay,
That's
so-
exactly where you are.
So that's why we don't do that, which is why we go back up to the transaction broker or
Yes.
facilitator, and that's something that we're not really an agent for either. We facilitate and help, and we fill out forms and we tell all this stuff.
Right,
But
because we know everything that needs to be done according to the law, and all the forms that need to be filled out with all these transactions, and we still help you get through the process.
okay,
to
so
make
that's
it-
doable.
and then make it easy. Yeah, that's a great choice.
Okay, good deal.
That's a great choice.
The second choice is
The second choice is that the buyer's unrepresented.
okay. You mentioned
Wow.
you thought that was not a good idea.
I wouldn't recommend that
Tell me why.
because there are so many pitfalls that you may not know about buying a house. If you have a good agent, they're going to know some things that just the common person is not going to know. We've seen so many transactions, and we've seen good and we've seen bad, and we've seen some that can cause problems. So if we see something that's up with a house when we take you there, then we can go ahead and bring those things up and get some of that stuff corrected before we get down to the final signing.
So, I'm going to take a little sidebar here.
Yeah,
This is what realtors are actually for.
exactly.
Okay, it's our job to be the professionals and to understand how the system works and to walk you through it. I tell people often, if you were being sued for $150,000, would you hire a lawyer?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, so if you're going to make a purchase of $150,000, you want to do that by yourself?
I don't think it's a good idea.
Exactly, because one mistake can cause you major problems,
It
we
could-
are going to go over that in a different video, by the way.
For sure, and it could cost you some money just not knowing.
Okay.
Okay,
Next
on the
the
buyer
list.
side. Okay, so on the buyer side, you could be agent for the buyer. So if you chose to have agent for the buyer, that would just be that the whole company, Marty Loveday Associates, like of Seymour here, that our whole office, every agent in here would basically be working for you. So we would all know everything there is about the whole transaction.
Okay.
So any agent here could help you through the process.
That's not typical, is it?
That is not. That's
Okay.
not typical, because most folks, when we develop a relationship with you, typically it's a one-on-one relationship where the agent, you like that agent, and that a lot of times that plays a big part. Is if you like that agent, you feel confident in that agent, and you want
Trust.
them to handle your deal. Yeah, trust goes a long way.
Okay.
So
Which leads us to,
the designated agent.
which is most common.
Yes.
Okay.
And so if you're designated agent for the buyer, we're still on the buyer side, then that again talks about that representation form, that
Okay.
buyer's rep form
Okay.
that we're going to have you sign. So we've got that signed, and we're designated agent for the buyer. So that says, so if you hire me to be your agent, I'm going to represent you and look out for your best interest, because I want John to win.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I asked for the buyer, but if we come over to the seller, I see it's very similar.
It is almost the same, except for obviously you just swap out the name.
Okay. So in other words, if now you're selling a property that I own, but we're just going to choose.
You're either going to be transaction broker, which probably not going to happen if it's on the seller side.
Okay.
Okay, or the seller's not going to be represented at all.
Okay.
Okay, or we could be agent for the seller, which would be the whole office being your agent. So you'd have everybody here working for you.
Okay.
And then there's designated agent, which means that just that one agent is your agent. So they're the one that's looking out for your
Which,
best interest.
once again, is the most typical choice that
it
people
is.
use.
Yes, and that's the one that you would want.
Okay, good deal. Roger, your information is invaluable. Thank you for taking the time to sit down and explain this. I'm sure the guys have thoroughly enjoyed your educational series. Now, tell me something. You've been in real estate for how long?
Since 2005, we started.
Okay, so you have survived through all of the...
The ups and the downs.
Okay, and to be in business for this long is impressive. I mean, there's
It
not many
takes-
realtors
it
that
takes
last
some
that long.
commitment, because we did lose a few good real estate agents during the downturn.
Okay, good deal. Well, guys, if you have any questions, Roger is an expert and is fantastic to answer them. And so I would highly recommend his expertise. Once again, this is Roger McCarter. I'm John Suttles with Marty Loveday and Associates. We both are realtors, and we both want to help you enjoy your real estate experience. And as you said, we want them to win.
Absolutely.
So contact us today, and we can get started working for you.
Give us a call, guys.
Have a good day.
See ya.